What would you do if one man's words on the other side of the world triggered the sudden repositioning of nuclear submarines? Arguably the most terrifying weapons on Earth. Because that's exactly what just happened. Donald Trump has ordered U.S. nuclear submarines to move into strategic positions after a few choice words from the former Russian president Dmitry Medvedev.
Russia? I think it's disgusting what they're doing.
Words so incendiary, so pointed that they shook the White House, the Pentagon, and military analysts across the globe. And here's the kicker. This isn't just political chest thumping. It's not a drill. This is real. Submarines loaded with nuclear missiles are now quietly gliding beneath oceans, ready to strike, all because of a statement. So the question is, what did Medvedev say that pushed Trump to take this step? What's at stake here? And how close are we, really, to the brink of a modern-day global showdown? Let's get into it. This story starts with an ominous post by Dmitry Medvedev, the former president of Russia and a close ally of Vladimir Putin. Medvedev has, for years, served as one of the most outspoken hardliners in Russian politics. But what he said this time wasn't just another fiery outburst. It was a direct warning. He accused the United States of escalating tensions beyond repair and suggested that the only language the West seems to understand is the threat of absolute force. That alone might have been brushed off. But Medvedev didn't stop there. He invoked the idea of nuclear force, not in vague terms, but in specific chilling language. He said that Russia reserves the right to respond with maximum retaliation if what he called Western meddling continues. And with Russia's invasion of Ukraine still ongoing, NATO expansion deepening, and the U.S. flexing its own military presence in Europe and Asia, it didn't take long for this message to set off alarm bells in Washington. Trump's response? A swift and very public declaration. The United States is totally prepared. And just like that, 2 U.S. nuclear submarines were ordered to be repositioned. Not just anywhere, but into appropriate regions, as the administration carefully phrased it. Military insiders suggest this likely means the Pacific and potentially the Mediterranean or even near the Arctic, where Russian naval movements have surged over the last year. But why submarines? Why not aircraft carriers or missile defense systems? Because submarines are stealthy, hard to detect, and carry massive payloads of nuclear weapons. They're not for show. They're for deterrence or war. Now, let's back up for a second. Because to understand how serious this is, we need to grasp the bigger game at play. Since the Cold War, the world has relied on a fragile concept called mutually assured destruction, MAD for short. The idea is that no one launches nuclear weapons because everyone knows it would lead to complete annihilation. So when submarines start moving, it's not just about military readiness. It's a signal, a warning, and sometimes a bluff. But this time, it doesn't feel like a bluff. Let's also not forget who we're dealing with. Trump is not known for subtlety. When he acts, he wants people to notice. And by publicly announcing the movement of nuclear submarines, he's sending a clear message to Moscow. Don't test us. But there's more. This isn't just about Russia. It's also about China, North Korea, and even domestic audiences. Trump wants to appear strong, decisive, and, above all, prepared, especially with elections looming and critics accusing him of weakening global alliances. So what exactly are these submarines capable of? Let's break that down. The U.S. Navy operates 14 Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines. Each one carries up to 20 Trident 2D-5 missiles. And each missile can be armed with multiple nuclear warheads, each warhead powerful enough to level a major city. These submarines are designed to remain hidden beneath the oceans for months at a time, undetected, waiting for a launch order that everyone hopes never comes. And now, 2 of them are heading into regions considered strategically sensitive, which, in plain terms, means places where they can strike key targets within minutes. And here's where things get even more chilling. Experts believe the regions in question could include the Norwegian Sea, close to Russian northern bases, or the Philippine Sea, near China and North Korea. Either way, it places American nuclear firepower within reach of multiple flashpoints. And it also means we're now in an era where a few words, like Medvedev's, can lead to real-world mobilizations of weapons that could wipe out humanity. At this point, you're probably wondering, what are the chances this escalates further? The truth is, no one really knows. But this isn't just political theater. Behind closed doors, there are real calculations happening right now. Commanders checking readiness, pilots running drills, diplomats scrambling for clarity. Because everyone knows that when nuclear submarines move, things can spiral quickly. And while we're here, if you're finding this breakdown valuable, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss updates like this. This story isn't over. It's still unfolding, and I'll be covering every new twist as it happens. So where does this leave us? And why now? Well, some analysts believe that Trump's move is partly psychological. It's not about launching anything. It's about reminding adversaries that America still dominates the undersea battlefield. That while surface ships and aircraft might be visible, it's the subs that hold the real power. Others, however, worry this kind of move could backfire, that it might provoke an overreaction. After all, Medvedev's comments were sharp, but not unprecedented. So is Trump overreacting? Or is he simply doing what any president should do in the face of a nuclear threat? Let's also consider what this means for global stability. The U.S. isn't the only nation with submarines. Russia has a fleet of its own, including the fearsome Boryai-class subs, each carrying 16 Bulava missiles. And just last month, Russia conducted a test of one of those submarines in the Barents Sea. Coincidence? Probably not. Military posturing is all about timing. And now that the U.S. has moved its pieces, we can expect Russia, and possibly China, to respond in kind. And there's another layer here, the cyber front. While physical submarines move through the oceans, there's an invisible war happening online. Cybersecurity experts have reported a rise in probing attempts against U.S. naval systems. And while no breach has been confirmed, the Pentagon isn't taking chances. Multiple defense contractors have been ordered to review submarine communication protocols. Because in a world where digital sabotage is possible, even the most powerful weapons can be compromised. Let's not overlook the economic ripple effect either. As news of the submarine movement spread, global markets reacted instantly. Oil prices ticked upward, defense stocks surged, and some investors began hedging against increased geopolitical risk. That tells us one thing: the world is watching. And not just governments, businesses, citizens, and markets are all bracing for what comes next.
Now, it's easy to get overwhelmed by all of this. Nuclear submarines, political threats, military escalation. It sounds like something out of a Cold War movie. But the reality is far more complicated. Because while this feels like history repeating itself, the rules of the game have changed. Technology is faster. Communication is instantaneous. And leaders, like Trump and Medvedev, are more unpredictable than ever. And speaking of unpredictability, here's a thought. What if this wasn't just a reaction to Russia? What if Trump used Medvedev's comments as a convenient excuse to flex American muscle ahead of another crisis? Say, the brewing conflict in Taiwan, or renewed tensions with North Korea. Strategic repositioning doesn't just happen overnight. It takes planning, which means this move could have been in the works long before Medvedev opened his mouth. Whatever the motive, one thing is clear. The stakes are real, and the game being played is deadly serious. Because while most world leaders talk tough, it's rare to see actual hardware move, especially hardware capable of mass destruction. Which brings us back to that haunting truth. Sometimes, all it takes is a sentence to shift the balance of power. And in case you're wondering, yes, this story is still developing. Intelligence agencies are on high alert. Allies are being briefed. NATO commanders are assessing whether this move signals something bigger. And the Russians? They're watching every signal, every sonar ping, every whisper of movement under the sea. Because when nuclear submarines vanish into the depths, only one thing is certain: they're not hiding. They're hunting. So keep your eyes open. The world just got a little more dangerous. And the next move? It could come at any moment.